A few hours, a family's going to gather here. They're going to say goodbye to a loved one. And they, like many of you have already, they will face death. And as one that's preached many funerals, I realize that I'm not the only preacher in the room. I try to bring a message of hope, but there's another preacher in the room, and that preacher is death. And if you were just to take a casual observation, you would notice that it seems like all the physical evidence is in his court. He can point to the casket. He can point to the body. He can point to the crying loved ones and say he's won. And we're left with the question ultimately, what does it all mean? Is the person that we're honoring, how did they live their life? Were they successful? Or did they face disappointment after disappointment? Were they wealthy? Or do they live in poverty? Were they wise beyond all knowledge or a fool? Many years ago, in a book in the Bible called Ecclesiastes, a very wise man wrestled with these questions. And he came up to a conclusion that's pretty disappointing. At the end of it all, he says, life is meaningless. He says, whether you're rich or whether you're poor, you die and they put you in a box. Whether you're wise or whether you're foolish, you die and they put you into a box. Whether you've lived a life of great compassion or you lived a life of great selfishness, you still die and they put you in a box. He says it this way. He says, as one dies, so dies another. All die, and therefore it's meaningless. And he wrestles with this idea that life at the end, because of death, is meaningless. So here's the question for us. As we go forward in life, what's it all about? What's it for? If regardless of how we live life, we will all face death, many will face disease, some will face brokenness, some will face divorce, but in the end we all face death. What's it all for? See, that's what Easter morning is all about. That's what resurrection hope is. Because see, this backdrop to our life could be death, and all the evidence seems to suggest that it is. Or Easter morning can enter, and there be something else that we use as the backdrop to our life, and that backdrop would be hope. That's the question for us. That's the question for you this Easter morning.